Hey guys, I'm Destiny, and I am making a response to his Destiny is Autism, the Naked Ape hit piece. This is something that I thought I would never do for a variety of reasons, but we'll kind of jump into it. I guess I want to talk about there's kind of like two overarching themes that are kind of at play here, I guess, to consider, and one will kind of explain why I've avoided addressing this kind of stuff in the past. So, when you are a public figure, to whatever extent I am, I'm not a Hollywood actor, whatever, right? When you're a public figure, you basically have three ways that you can kind of engage with rumors online, and all of them are really, really rough. If you are a public figure, and you can relate to this because this is very difficult, very frustrating to deal with. And if you're not a public figure, maybe it could just be a little bit of insight into how people like me or people like us kind of have to approach this stuff, right? So you have three ways. I call this the lose-lose-lose thing, okay? You've got three ways you can kind of approach these things online. So the first method is you can just ignore it completely, which is typically what I do. And if you ignore it completely, one of two things can happen. Either one, it festers, more people start to pick up on it, more people use it against you. This is pretty common. Or two, sometimes it can just go away completely. It's not very common that happens. Typically, it tends to fester, and people that don't like you will use it against you, right? So this is the first lose. The second part is that you can confront it and deny it. So this can work to your fans, right? If somebody says, "Hey, Destiny said X," and I'm like, "Dude, I didn't say that," right? Your fans can buy it. People that don't agree with you, won't buy it, and sometimes even your denial makes them have even more resolve in their claims for whatever reason. And so I don't know. I don't consider this very good because typically your fans will side with you regardless, and anti-fans will side against you regardless. So this just seems kind of like wasted effort. I would call this another lose. And then the third one is that oftentimes, to battle claims made about your personal life, you have to reveal more information in order to counteract those claims, right? So in this realm, you are putting forward more personal information in order to refute a previous claim. I would consider that a loss by default. I'm very forthcoming and open with 99% of my life. Most people aren't, and I can understand your unwillingness to share personal information to people on the internet because it will be used to attack you. And depending on the type of person you are, it can be very, very, very upsetting. And, we'll talk about it in this video, some of those very personal things used to attack you that I've had other wonderful people in the internet community, like Psychic Pebbles and other people, Sargon and everybody used to attack me. So this trifectum of kind of like public persona shittiness is kind of why I haven't really addressed this video in the past, but I'm kind of doing this because the amplification, I guess, of this kind of propaganda is very surprising to me. I see these same insults used against me over and over and over again. And actually, what actually pushed me into making this video was like 2 days ago. I saw in the comment section of a ContraPoints video somebody who said they were a fan of me but were on the fence because of the claims brought up in Naked Ape's hit piece. So, geez. So I figured at least I would have like a resource to point to and like, hey, like a lot of that video was completely and totally, bullshit. So that's kind of the first point, right? That trifecta of kind of the lose-lose-lose. The second point is, this is kind of a reoccurring theme I've noticed in a lot of the people that attack me online is that nobody ever seems to be willing to engage with any of the content. Nobody seems to be willing to engage with any of my ideas. Generally, it comes down to kind of these bizarro ad hominems or straw men or ad straminem, I guess, I don't know. People will take like a singular quote like "I love communism" or pedophilia or some shit, I guess, and then that kind of becomes the foundation of which they build their attacks against me. Or it's just, random personal attacks. Like, did you see the stupid thing Destiny did 4 or 5 years ago? Which is more or less this entire video. So with those two things out of the way, I've kind of arranged all of the points that Naked Ape made in his video about me. There's like 9 separate points, right? And I've kind of separated these out into 3 categories. We've got the factually incorrect. So these are points that are just wrong. I've got the horribly out of context. And then I have the presented pretty unfairly, okay? 3 different categories. In our factually incorrect category, we have 7 claims. In the horribly out of context category, we have 1 claim. And then in the pretty unfairly presented category, we have another claim. So most of these are just straight out factually incorrect. So let's start off with the first kind of claim. The first thing, I think that this is very funny because for all the 13-minute video that he made attacking me, this is the only fact that actually like had anything to do with the conversation that I had with JonTron. Before we get into this too much, the only reason that he made this video was because apparently he was very upset that when we had our conversation, I kind of hung up on him. I didn't really hang up on him, but I kind of told him, like, I don't think this is going anywhere. I don't think that this is a reasonable conversation, and I left. I was pretty hot-headed in that conversation. He was incredibly hot-headed. I think you've seen it. It's uploaded on my channel. That's the shut up guy. But yeah. So anyway, jumping into the factually incorrect claims. Let's start off with the first claim. The first thing he does is he links a picture that shows that poor black people commit more crime, or I'm sorry, that rich black people commit more crime than poor white people. And I think he brings up that I'm uncomfortable that this is a fact or something. So I wanted to say that this is kind of funny because this is the only like relevant piece of data that he brings up that was actually, like related. This fucking thing that was actually related to my conversation with JonTron. There's a little like fucking thing right here. All right, sorry. The funny thing is, though, that this piece of evidence is actually entirely fabricated. Not only is it entirely fabricated because multiple people sent emails to the Bureau of Justice Statistics trying to find a source for this data. Nobody could find it. Notice that nobody linked to any. But one of my fans actually got in contact with the guy that created the image. He said he posted it on 4chan. He went about how he collected the data, the methodology that he used to collect it. He kind of strung together a lot of sources and made a lot of guesses, and he just shitposted it onto Poll, and he had no idea that it would be used so extensively on the internet. I must have seen that picture posted at me 1,000 times after my JonTron conversation. So yeah, kind of funny. That yeah, there's just no basis in reality for this picture. Now, you can point to incarceration rates. I think there was a study done with 100 or so different people that I think is posted on the Washington Post. I'm not sure, but I mean, that's another argument to make. This particular piece of data, this chart that Naked Ape posted, has no foundation in reality. If you disagree with me, and you're in the comments, and I know that there are going to be Naked Ape fans that are brigading this video, I invite you to post the source from the Bureau of Justice Statistics that actually accounts for the information, the data in this picture. Not anything about a study, not anything about maybe a one-off case study or or whatever, but like actually post the source for these statistics. I would be very interested to see them. I have very low expectations of you actually being able to find this data. So that was the first point. That was just entirely factually incorrect. The second point was he brings up my friend growing up that I told to kill myself. So I think he says in this video that I told him to kill himself, that I was laughing at the time I helped my friend commit suicide. So I use humor to cope with a lot of things. I'm a very funny person. The darkest aspects of my life aren't even really public. A lot of people aren't even aware of some things, which is fine. I prefer to keep it that way. But humor is something that I joke about all things. I joke about bad life events, good life events. It's just what I do personally. I understand that some people can find that tasteless, and I am totally okay with that. I do make suicidal jokes sometimes, and I do make jokes about my friend committing suicide sometimes with Kyle. He was one of my two best friends growing up. If you want to levy the criticism at me that it is not right or morally righteous, I guess, to make jokes like this, by all means, I think that's a legitimate argument. Well, I mean, I would disagree with it, but I mean, that's an argument, an assertion that you can make, that you can defend, that we can fight over. But the idea that I encouraged my friend to commit suicide and told him to do it is absolutely false. If you've ever seen me talk about this in the past, I've actually expressed this as possibly being the sole regret that I've had in my life. I don't believe in regrets per se, but if I had one, this would probably be it. And I've had other people throw my friend's suicide at me as some kind of attack on my character, and it's very funny. Even Psychic Pebbles threw a post that I made on my subreddit on it, but everybody seems to leave out that literally the bottom line is that this is the only regret that I have in my life, is that I wasn't able to, I didn't have the right philosophy, I guess, to stop him. I guess to expand on it a little bit, even though I've done it in the past in other videos, to get it all out here, basically, in my conversion from Christianity to atheism, I experienced a period of this kind of moral nihilism where I really didn't believe that there was any sort of absolute morality, or even my relative morality was like very strange. And my friend, growing up, I had two friends. I had Kyle and I had Chris. Chris, growing up, was kind of fucked in his life. He got busted for a marijuana charge. I think he was like 20 years old. He didn't have a job. He didn't even have a car. And he felt like he was fucked in his life. So he was talking to me about killing himself. He said he was probably just going to commit suicide. And I talked with him a lot about this because I didn't want to do it. I must have traded fucking 100 pages of text back and forth over this. But at the time in my life, I didn't feel like I had the authority to stop him from doing it. I didn't feel like I could call the police or contact his parents or tell somebody like that he has to not do this. I just didn't feel like that was in my place to do so. Now, you can argue that maybe I was an idiot. I think that looking back now and knowing the philosophy I have on life now, I wouldn't let anybody do that. I mean, with few exceptions, like assisted suicide of like elderly people or people with incurable, horrifying diseases that are like, torturing them or whatever. I could obviously make some exceptions in these cases, but for the most part, I'm very much against suicide, and I'm very much in favor of stopping people from committing suicide. So, I mean, if I had my current morality that I have now at 28, back when I was 19, 20, I probably would have, I definitely would have done everything in my power to stop him, but I didn't. But this idea that I encouraged my friend to kill to kill himself is pretty absurd. And if I were, I'm not sure. That's, I don't know, I think that's really disgusting that I do share, probably overshare to some people. I share quite a bit of personal information about me. It's pretty upsetting that so many people are so quick to take something like that and use it as a personal attack against me because of a political disagreement. That's pretty upsetting. I wish, I'm not a very emotional person, but like if I was, like, this would be the time in the video where I would be crying, because it actually really bothers me that one of my best friends, this is the guy that I played most of my games with. Like, I spent most of the time gaming with him. This is the guy that introduced me to poker. I drove to fucking Malvern, Iowa. It's like an hour away. Every single weekend I drove to pick this dude up so that we could hang out. He lived behind me growing up. I must have known him since I was 6 or 7 years old. So yeah, the idea that people would throw this in my face and say I told him to kill himself, this is pretty disingenuous, and it's pretty disgusting too. I feel like if anybody, a social justice warrior or whatever, were to do this to somebody on the right, I feel like people would take up arms. Like, why is this guy doing this? Like, I feel like it's a pretty disgusting thing. So that's the second claim that's just factually incorrect. On the third claim, apparently he claims that I say that he sent me DMs through a Smurf. I never said that. I'm not an idiot. This isn't my first day on the internet. It's not my first rodeo. I know that there are thousands of fans on both sides engaging in this kind of, DM warfare, and that people sending me DMs, aren't him necessarily. I mean, I guess it could have been, but again, I never made that allegation. I don't know why he would claim that I did. And then he further goes on. I guess I know why. It's because he further goes on to make the claim that I sent him mean words in a DM or whatever on an alternate account. This is not behavior that I engage in. I guess, like, obviously maybe anybody that would do it, but I'm so public with everything, and I'm like stretched for time on everything. I stream like 220 hours a month, plus all the other social media, news, everything else that I have to keep up with. Watching my son, 3 or 4 days ago, there's so much other stuff going on in my life. I don't have the time to make Smurf accounts, and not to mention that, like for all my fucking pros and cons, like, I have a pretty fucking big ego. If I'm gonna like throw down a sick fucking burn or some shit, or I'm really gonna rile somebody up, they gotta know it's from my account. Why would I go onto a Smurf to try to fuck with somebody? It just doesn't make any sense. I don't really see the motivation there. I would be curious to hear like what somebody is thinking, like what the justification is. Like, well, this is why you went onto an alternate account to send me bad deals. Like, I don't know. But that's the third claim. The fourth one, so in the fourth claim, he posts a screenshot. I think Stefano got in trouble at the time because Stefano banged a 14-year-old, and he got caught online admitting to it. He sent a private message to somebody who was streaming at the time. I think it was Bly, I don't remember, or Bling or something. Fuck, I don't remember. But I posted somewhere on the subreddit. This is kind of like a thing that's kind of always bothered me, is that, and I guess the difference between like the legal definition and the psychological definition of pedophile is always something that's kind of bothered me. So a pedophile is somebody that's attracted to prepubescent children. So this is explicitly people that have not developed secondary sexual characteristics, right? So let's say that you're attracted to a 14, 15, 16-year-old and they've got, breasts or an ass or secondary sexual characteristics that would make them an attractive person of that gender, right? This is not pedophilia at that point. Now, it doesn't make it right or okay. I would never advocate having sexual relationships with teenagers in your 20s or anybody, that's not of the, I don't know what that actual age of consent or whatever should be, but in general, like, I don't typically advocate for underage relationships, I guess, unless it's like, 19, 17, 18, 16 or whatever, like 19 and 17 or 18 and 16, not like the years. Or not the dates. That got really confusing. But I've never in my life have I advocated publicly or privately that people should be able to have relationships with underage children. So I guess Naked Ape takes this post that I made on the StarCraft subreddit, and he makes it sound like I'm saying that Stefano was in the moral right because I disagreed with the definition of pedophile used there. Basically, the post that he links is more or less me saying that, like, calling somebody a pedophile for fucking a 15-year-old is a very strange thing. I guess legally it is what it is, but that's not really what a pedophile is, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I made that post, and I guess he used that and kind of twisted that into me defending Stefano or defending somebody else, you know, banging a 14-year-old when they're in their 20s, which I've never really done. So that's the fourth post. Or the fourth factually incorrect statement. So the fifth one is, I guess maybe I should be rating these like half-truths, or like, what do you give them, Pinocchios, or what is the PolitiFact or whatever. So in the fifth claim, he claims that I wanted to track somebody down and murder them and their father over video game shit. And then he says somebody that I had an internet beef with, right? So these are the claims that he's making. So firstly, this has to do with the DDoS kid. So if you've ever played games online and you looked up a DDoS guide before, there's a good chance that you saw my guide. I had the most popular DDoS guide on the internet, and maybe even still do for 4 or 5 years. And it was referenced by everybody. I think the Riot staff themselves officially linked it. Tons of other large companies linked it. Pretty much it was the go-to guide on the internet. I think I had the best solution, the singular best solution for protecting Skype. I helped a lot of teams out. I helped a lot of individual streamers out, other organizations in terms of securing their Skypes. I published all the material on my website. And the reason why I was able to gather this information was because I was harassed so much by this kid. I think Obnoxious was the guy actually doing the DDoSing, and then the kid that I was dealing with, I only know him as Jacob. Basically, what happened was over to kind of, you know, I don't want to go over the whole story, but basically what happened was I was able to track down all of this guy's information. I tracked down the names of his parents, his siblings, his house, his address, like everything, right? I had every piece of information on him. And once I had this information, I felt incredibly relieved because I thought I would get him to stop DDoSing me. So just as a reminder, I have, and I know people treat streaming differently in different ways, and, you know, it's just playing video games, and you've got fun bros that stream all day. So for me, streaming is fun, and it is bros hanging out and everything. But this is my job. It really is. Like, this is how I pay my bills. I have a mortgage. I've got real bills. I've got a child. You know, I need to earn money. It's not just like a for fun thing to me. Like, if I just don't make money streaming, I can just go crash at mom's or whatever, right? I have a real life. This is my real job. And what this kid was doing was the equivalent of slashing my tires every single day going to work. And that's not even that far of an exaggeration of the amount of money that I was out. I was out thousands and thousands of dollars, $5, $10, $15, $20+ thousand, because every day I would be streaming, this kid would start cutting my stream. And I had no idea. This was back when everything was a little bit newer. I didn't know what DDoSing was. I didn't know how to stop anything, right? This is I had to develop my method and figure out how to keep people from doing this. I spent a great deal of time doing it. But before I developed that method, right, I exhausted all of my avenues for trying to get this kid to stop. So after I figured out who he was, I fired off a couple emails towards his dad. So his dad was an incredibly huge piece of shit to me. I've talked about this before. I might, if I'm not too lazy, maybe I'll post a screenshot in the YouTube info section. But basically, his dad emailed me back after I told him that I knew his son was doing it. His first email was denial, I think. And then after I confronted him again, his next email was basically saying that his son was very intelligent, that I would do good to befriend him, and that I shouldn't say mean things about his family. Basically, the father had shirked all responsibility. He wasn't ensuring me whatsoever that he was going to keep his child from doing anything again. And then later on, he sent me another email claiming that his whole family of lawyers was going to take me to court and send me back to carpet cleaning because of the mean things that I was saying on his son online, right? So on top of all of this going on, I had 3 independent interviews with the FBI trying to figure out how to stop this from going on. Of course, every interview with the FBI dead ends as soon as they find out you play video games because they no longer take it seriously, even if you state that you've lost over $5,000 in business. So I never had anything there, right? So I guess, like, if you put yourself in my position, I'm pretty much being forced out of work, okay, by a person at their leisure, right, for whatever reason, and I'm just losing thousands and thousands of dollars. I can't pay my bills. I never got that bad that where I could pay my bills, but like, I'm losing thousands and thousands of dollars. I can't work. I know where the kid lives. I know all of his information. I've contacted his parent, and his dad won't do anything to stop him. So yeah, I got pretty fucking irritated. I don't know if like this is comparable to like rape or some other type of like aggravated assault, but not even, because at least in those cases you can go and find somebody somebody to help you. But like, I was completely out of luck here. Like, I would just have to sit in my house and watch my internet connection get roasted every single day. I wasn't able to stream. It wasn't right. So I don't know if any of this ends up working out as a justification for killing somebody and their family. Probably not. I do get a little bit extreme on my stream sometimes, and I do exaggerate things. But I mean, for the most part, I'll take credit for what I say. I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, oh, you know, I never even thought about it or whatever, because that would be a lie. I was very, very fucking frustrated with this kid, and I had exhausted every single legal option. You know, is that a justification for killing somebody? Probably not. It's probably not a good reason to do it. But is the story a little bit more than just I had internet beef with somebody? Yeah, probably. That's probably a pretty dishonest way of presenting that entire information. So, funny enough, I had Sargon himself quote this video at me. He refused to contend with my DMCAs because he claimed that I would find him and kill him. I thought that was pretty funny. The sixth point that he brings up is a Dr. Phil invitation for me to go on his show, and then he posts a Reddit post. That Reddit post wasn't for me to go on Dr. Phil. That was for XJ9 to go on Dr. Phil. And that never had anything to do with me whatsoever. I thought it was kind of funny that he posted that because it was just completely and totally factually incorrect. And then the seventh kind of claim that I put here is, it's not really a claim of the video. I think he puts it in the descriptor below or in the comment below. And then I think he mentions it once in his video that he had a convenient community strike against his channel. With the implication being that I'm trying to, I guess, proactively DMCA everybody. So the only DMCAs I've ever filed are people that straight rip my content, especially people that straight rip my content to try to make me look bad. I never DMCA, you know, I didn't DMCA his hit piece. I don't DMCA Sargon shit that he said about me. You know, he made a larger video, whatever. Like, if you'd make original content, like, I'm not here to, like, be a dick or whatever and abuse that shit. But if you're straight ripping my shit with the only intention of making me look bad, like, yeah, I'll exercise my rights to my content. I can license it however I want. And if you're only using it to make me look bad, yeah, sure, I'll DMC it. It's completely within my rights to do so. And up to this date, nobody has provided an argument against that. Not a single person I have talking or spoken to, which makes sense considering there are no arguments against it. But so those are kind of the 7 claims that were just completely and horribly factually incorrect in this video, right? Maybe at this point you start to realize why I didn't really bother initially making a response video, because I kind of figured that it would just kind of blow over. I didn't realize that, again, the amplification would be so extreme that so many people kind of pick up on it. I think the video has like over 200,000 views and a decent amount of thumbs up for being a pretty egregiously incorrect in a lot of different ways, and just kind of being like an ad hominem hit piece. So the point 8 that I have here, the thing that's just kind of taken horribly out of context was the "is incest wrong?" I wish I had like a link to the full stream where you could see my discussion of this. I don't know where he found this shit at. He like literally went on, after our conversation, he went on like this hunting spree where he was messaging everybody, and you know, like years and years old of videos. He might have actually gotten the video from my old YouTube editor. I'm not even sure, but you know, this was basically, somebody had made a post on Reddit. It was a father that had made a post on Reddit, and the father said that he was raising his family to be incredibly sex positive, right? A very, very, very sex positive, very untraditional in terms of how they approach that kind of stuff. So open communication with their children about all things sex and whatnot. And essentially the daughter approached him and said that, hey, you know, I need, I want to know what it's like to have an orgasm, and I don't know how to do it. Can you show me, right? So I think that conversations about incest are very interesting because we have moved our expectations, our standards of basically how we view sexuality has changed quite a bit over the past even 20 years, right? It's changed pretty significantly. We have gay marriage, you know, we're moving along with a lot of transgender rights. You know, women, you know, being sexually promiscuous is more accepted now, instead of only men being allowed to do it. You know, less people are getting married. There's a lot of different things going on here, right? Which most are positive. There are some negative side effects, though, I'll of course admit. But I think that sexually we view things a lot differently than we used to. So it's very interesting to take old taboos that are completely, you know, bad, and then to kind of like take them again under the current lens of how you view sexuality, just to kind of examine your current sexual thought. So think about it, like right now. And again, it's an interesting thought experiment. Like if somebody were to tell you that incest is wrong, or you were to say that, right? I think most people have kind of an visceral reaction to it. What are your actual reasons for it being wrong? And you have to think of something besides it's icky or underage, right? Because not all incest necessarily has to be underage, right? It's an interesting conversation. It really is. You go into who should be allowed to consent between two sexual partners. You can run through a lot of the standard arguments. The funny thing is that, and I know that Naked Ape wouldn't be able to present the argument because I don't think he possesses a sufficient understanding of consent in order to make an argument against it, which is doubly ironic because in his video he never makes an argument against incest. So like if you run through the standard arguments, well, what about father-daughter or mother-son or whatever? Well, pedophilia could still be wrong, or having sex with a minor can still be wrong. What about two consenting siblings, right? What about a sister and a brother who want to have sexual intercourse? That's still incest, right? Should that be wrong? Well, what about a child that could be genetically deformed? Well, okay. However, we don't use that argument for two non-related people. There are people that carry around autosomal genetic defects that if they have a child, they're pretty much guaranteed to inherit it. But we don't keep these people from having sexual intercourse, right? So that's not really a valid argument, is it? We also have plenty of forms of birth control that are 99+% effective, and abortion is legal across the entire United States. So is the pregnancy argument really legitimate? So you've got the underage argument, the pregnancy argument. You can even go a step further and say, well, what about homosexual incestuous relationships, right? It gets pretty tangly, right? You can't really attack it from like it's bad because of these kind of reasons that you want to jump to, right? Now, I don't know what exactly I said at the end of that video, but this is something that I've thought about a great deal. If you want a really good argument against incest, the best argument against incest usually revolves around power dynamics. And this is the reason why I said that Naked Ape probably wouldn't even be able to refute an argument against incest, because I don't think that most people on his side even believe like things like consent or power dynamics like really exist, right? So for power dynamics, you typically don't want two people engaging in a sexual relationship where the balance of power is grossly off, because it becomes impossible to actually determine if consent is given here, right? So for instance, let's say you have an employer and he propositions an employee for sex. Do you really have the option to consent as the employee there? You don't really, you kind of do, right? But if you say no, maybe there are repercussions. This can be extended very easily to parent-child, very easily to teacher-student, and other types of relationships. It could be extended to fan and fangirl, right? Where people are where people can take advantage of people because of the power dynamics in the situation. You don't really know if someone is truly consenting, right? So this pretty easily dismisses most parent-child kind of sex relationships. The argument that you would then go further from is that you would say that the normalization of incestual relationships can be dangerous because if you normalize it too much, there are too many scenarios where incest is most likely to occur between people of dramatically different power differences. For instance, let's say that we say it's okay for brothers and sisters to have sex as long as they're out of the house and truly consenting. Well, that would probably tempt more 18 and 16-year-olds into being in sexual relationships, right? Which you can argue, is unhealthy for a variety of reasons, mainly having to do with the power dynamics, right? Because siblings are more likely to be, a decent amount of age apart. Even 2 or 3 years apart is pretty significant, right? That's the difference between a junior in high school and an 8th grader, right? So these are usually my go-to arguments against incest. I've never advocated for incest in my entire life. I've never said that it's a good idea. I've never said that it's morally righteous, and I've never said that that people should engage in incest. This is an argument that I have never made. Maybe I should have put this under the factually incorrect thing. I've never advocated for incest ever in my entire life. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting that a couple clips would be taken from a pretty involved video. I feel like that video was like an hour or two long. It was a pretty in-depth discussion. I guess this was taken to make it sound like I'm supporting of incest or pedophilia. And then the final comment I have, or the claim number 9 that I have, as presented pretty unfairly. So this was a discussion on underage fangirls. Apparently, Naked Ape thinks that I would be okay banging underage fangirls because of my post that I made about Stefano, about it not being pedophilia, because apparently if something is not pedophilia, that must mean I'm okay with it, right? You see the fallacious reasoning here. So this is probably the worst one that you could look at. There's not really much of a defense here. I mean, basically the claim that I made in the paste bin was that when you're a professional gamer, there's a lot of fucking girls that are hitting on you. It's insane. And the scariest part is the underage chicks that hit on you. I mean, it was a pretty brutally honest conversation, but I mean, I'll back up everything I said in that conversation. It's pretty fucking hard. If you're in your fucking early 20s or some shit, and you've got these late fucking teeny boppers that are sending you, these crazy pictures and whatnot, like, not necessarily nude pictures either. I don't, to my knowledge, I haven't received nude pictures of an underage person, although I guess it's theoretically possible. I don't know. I've never knowingly traded pictures with an underage person, but if you have like a relatively attractive 15, 16, 17-year-old and you're like in your early 20s, like, yeah, that can be a pretty mindfucky experience. But I mean, I've never done anything with an underage fan or anything like that, so I think that I'm not sure. I guess the implication there was that I would have no problem engaging in some kind of sexual relationship with an underage fan because of what I said to Stefano. Like, yeah, I don't know. I guess of all the points that he brought up, I guess like that you could attack somebody. You could attack me on that point pretty big, right? Like, oh, you should never ever be sexually attracted to teenagers. Like, that's just a moral wrong. But I feel like that argument is pretty hard to defend. But anyway, those are kind of the 9 points. I guess originally I didn't really want to make a video about this because like I said before, like a lot of it was just wrong, you know, like it was just kind of dumb shit. I figured that maybe it would get like 10 or 20,000 views and then it would just kind of, you know, people would just kind of fetter on and do their thing. But I've noticed that a lot of these claims are thrown at me over and over and over again, that I told my friend to kill himself, that I'm a murderer, that I'm a pedophile. And it's kind of crazy how many people, I guess, just watch these videos and just like instantly buy up everything, you know, from out of context clips that were streamed 4 or 5 years ago. But yeah, I guess here's my response video. So if anybody ever brings this shit up again, I could just link timestamps from this video and go, hey, by the way, this is complete bullshit. Here you go. Yeah, I love you guys. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.